We want to, where's the, adopt the agenda.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
I'll second
Okay, motion's been, there's been a motion that's been moved, properly seconded. Peggy, please call for the vote.
Okay. Director Dr. Michael Taylor.
it. Yes.
Director Greg Young.
Yes.
Director Dr. Clifford Young.
Oh,
Director
yes, I'm sorry, I was
Clifford.
talking to him.
Dr. Clifford Young.
Well, I move we adopt the agenda.
Yes, okay,
President
We
Chan.
already voted?
yes,
Oh,
Yeah.
I got the vote.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
I'm
We
sorry.
got it. It's unanimous, yes. All right, with that being said, first and foremost, before we get into the agenda, I do want to make a brief statement regarding a meeting that I had today. As you know, here at West Valley, we've had a number of reforms that we have made regarding Facebook, transparency, regarding our HR practices, and other issues of concern as far as making our agency more transparent and accountable. One of the key areas where over the course of the last 3 months that I've been on the board has been studying our fiscal controls and how we are being good stewards of the public dollar and how we are keeping integrity within our organization. Today, I had a very preliminary meeting with the State Controller's Office regarding the ongoing audit that began prior to me being on the board. Unfortunately, at this point, we are not able to disclose exactly what they have in their findings. There will be a process, and over the course of the coming weeks and the coming months, they will put together a report regarding the audit of our organization. Being that this is my first opportunity to sit in there and to have the audit findings, I find some things that are a bit concerning. One is that going back as far back as to 2014 and the leadership that was in place at that time, when it came to financial and other controls, did not operate in a way that was responsible for this organization. Their audit went all the way back to 2014, and that's the beginning of their findings. However, despite what happened in 2014, some of those practices remained in place and became a part of the organization, and they still have existed to this day. With that being said, some things we're going to get done today. I don't care when they started, but today is going to be the last day. The meeting was informative. It shed light on information I had not been made aware of since joining the board only 3 months ago. I want to applaud our progress, but the actions we have taken are not enough. We will continue making immediate actions as further information comes to light. Learning the information that I've received today during my meeting with the State Controller's Office, I am directing the General Manager to the following. 1. Each board member must submit an agenda attached to every reimbursement stipend form for every meeting they are requesting reimbursement. 2. All board members must complete an expense and reimbursement form with receipts attached for all travel, conferences, meal expenses, and submit to CFO for reimbursement. 3. All employees will submit receipts attached to an expense reimbursement form for all expenses, including credit card purchases, incurred to accounting department on a monthly basis. 4. All board members, I am requesting that they complete their ethics training by the end of the month of March. 5. The purchase, and this is one of a critical thing that we must do. I'm asking that the CFO research and bring us back a new reimbursement policy and make a recommendation In most organizations, they use per diem, but I also, if that is the common practice within our region, if there's the recommendation is a per diem based system, that's where we need to go, but I will leave the recommendation, but it must be a cap set for when board members, or when board or staff travel and the expenses that they make. And finally, the purchasing department and all of the purchasing functions will now report to the CFO effective immediately. Financial responsibility and accountability is what our ratepayers deserve. Some of these directives are new, while others have been long-standing practices that should have been adhered to. However, over time, these practices were no longer implemented, and that is unacceptable to me and the community we serve. I've talked this over with the other board members, and they are in agreement that these types of reforms are the actions that we need to take in the face of what is taking place, and that we can't wait any longer before we begin to remedy and start the process of reforming our agency. This evening, our CFO will come to us. One of the directives he received from the board at our last meeting was that we get a new manual for our CFO and our financial policies. It is the time is now that we get our fiscal house in order, in the same way that we got our HR practices in order. Change is going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be new ways that we're going to do things, but it's something that we can do, and it's something that we must do. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Please read the statement regarding public comment.
Any person wishing to speak to the Board of Directors on matters listed or not listed on the agenda within its jurisdiction is asked to complete a speaker card and submit it to the district clerk. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Under the State of California Brown Act, the Board of Directors is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. Comments related to notice public hearings and business matters will be heard during the occurrence of the item. Public communication is a time for anyone to address the board on any agenda item or anything under the jurisdiction of the district. Also, please remember that no disruptions from the crowd will be tolerated. If someone disrupts the meeting, they will be removed.
Okay. Are there any speaker cards?
I don't have any.
Okay. Without any speaker cards, no public comment. Members of the public are also permitted to speak on individual items if they so choose. With that being said, can we get the first presentation regarding the Special District Leadership Foundation, our commitment to excellence?
All right, well, good evening, Board of Directors. Tonight we're going to do a follow-up presentation on a District of Distinction, a new direction to the road of excellence. And essentially on slide number 3, you will see the target date is December 1st, 2020. And basically what the next level is that we have to do to complete this, the completion of the required CSDL training modules, ethics and harassment certificate by all board members, successful completion of the SDA examination by our general manager. The District of Distinction, District Transparency Certificate of Excellence, all required documentation which pertain to West Valley Water District policies and procedures have been collected. We are pending the board members' training certificates. There is a 2-week evaluation period before West Valley Water District will be approved. So certification will earn us the coveted recognition of a District of Distinction. That'll actually be the first step, but is a big step that we should take note of. A District of Distinction for the Special District Administrator Certificate SDA Study Group. We have signed up our General Manager, Clarence Manzel, so a lot of heavy weight's going to be on him for studying with a working group to make sure that he passes this. The topics will include governance, legal requirements, policy development, ethics in public service, how to handle personnel, budget and audit, and many more topics that can be directed by the Board of Directors, which they would like the General Manager to choose. Participation in the study group will help our General Manager to successfully complete and pass the 2-hour-long SDA examination, taking West Valley Water District to the level of Distinction Gold. which goal is a big, huge step, and that is a lot of pressure on our general manager. So Mr. Menzel, I really appreciate with all the things you have going on, taking that challenge, and appreciate you being so open and honest and working with me in the Special District Leadership Foundation so we could fit that in your busy schedule. So thank you. The next step would be a District of Distinction accreditation training dates. And this is what came up in the last part. Now, obviously we can do online courses, but the Special District Leadership Foundation would really encourage the board members to attend several sessions. So right here, you'll see April 19th through the 22nd in San Diego, or September 27th through 30th in Lake Tahoe. Most organizations send their members to both. I would encourage you guys to go to both because sometimes they have multiple classes going at different times. And if you're able to do both, that'll help us when we go through this process again, and it'll keep us up to date. So June 28th through the 30th is the general manager and executive team to attend the General Manager Leadership Summit. For cost-saving measures, I would recommend that we only send the general manager just to give him the time to focus and resources to do the study groups. But if you guys so chose, you could choose other staff members. SDA test dates determined by the CSDL for Special District Administrator Certificate. What that means is they don't have a set in stone state, but once they see that the seminar is going well, they will give us a date. It should be within the same time right after those classes. And then on the next slide, you will see just basically the process that you guys have been shown before, which shows you the transparency certificate, District of Distinction, all the way down to how to get to the platinum level, which includes recognition in governments, transparency certificate, SDA certificate, and District of Distinction. And right here you will see December 1st, 2020 would be when we would be a platinum level organization. Platinum level is a coveted, as you know, President Hawkins, and we've talked many times about this, as a very covenant thing for any district organization. And our surrounding areas, about 5 entities have this platinum level. So it's highly distinguished and something that people really take the time to attend. And then going on from here would be questions. And just before we move on to questions, I want to say the online courses, we had talked with the board secretary about that. She was willing to set those up. If you have any issues with that, feel free to just email me directly and I can get in contact with them and we can make classes that will fit with your time frame.
The only thing that I have is that, I just want to encourage myself and the other members of the board that this is something that is critical test for us in our commitment to transparency, our commitment to improving our agency and having a third party be able to certify that our agency is working with the best practices. I think it's incumbent on us to, I'm looking at the April date, it is quickly coming upon us. I will be looking to book myself to go and participate because if it's preferable, if calendars are open, we need to try to figure out which dates that you can go, and if you have the online, if you're going to participate online, let's get a specific date because I think it's an important and critical step for all of us to make sure that we're taking the necessary action to make our district a better, a district of distinction. And so I would just encourage everyone, including myself, to make sure we get our dates hammered out and we do everything we can to make sure we're doing what we need to do in our part.
And just to add on to that, you guys can feel free to contact me and we can work with your schedules and scheduling classes of interest for you and what times would work well for you. The big thing is just getting everybody on the same page and moving forward. This would be a great thing. They actually will come out and present an award to us when we get platinum. And the other option that they have given us to us is we are able to use our facility to help agencies across the region teach the courses as well if the board so chooses to do so. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ask a question. Are the required courses on demand or are they at set times as far as the online courses?
So there was actually a mix options. It depends on the class you want. A lot of them can be live interactive, but if that doesn't work with your time frame, you can go on and log in and take it at any time. And they'll do about 10 question quizzes throughout the videos.
Okay. Can you send us a list of the required classes? Because it sounds like there's options. Is that what you're saying? So I mean, there's a certain number of courses we have to take, or are there certain required and some that are more elective?
Yeah, I believe the current number is 3, but they offer up to 15 classes, so I can
Okay,
give you a
so
list.
any 3 do meet the requirement, is what
Yeah.
you're saying?
And ethics would be the only one that's required from there. You can
Well, we
figure
gotta
out-
do that with state law anyway.
Yeah,
so-
so.
Okay.
The thing about ethics, Mr. Pignon, here at the district, and I just want to say this, we have a potential for several dates, potentially to have ethics training here at the district, or?
Yes, I've communicated with a law firm in LA that can come over and do the 2-hour training. They gave me several dates.
Did you find out about the online? I think they have an online.
And if you want to do it online, you dial into the FPPC website, and there's a link, and you do the training, and once the training is done, they issue you a certificate. You can do it online.
You can do it online for free as well. And, and so have we?
Last time that way.
Yeah.
You can do it online.
Yeah, you could do it online for free as well. So for us and the staff here, there will be a training here at West Valley Water District within the next month for board members and staff to be able to attend the ethics training. They want it in person. Oh, is that the plan, or?
If that's the direction, I can set it up.
Okay. Is that, if that's the plan, I just think that's something that we all need to participate in and make sure that we get
I'll
done.
send out the dates tomorrow and
Mhm.
see what dates are preferable, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions about the Special District Leadership Foundation? Thank you, Jeremiah, you and the the external affairs staff for doing a good job and keeping us apprised so we don't drop the ball on it. Next up is the Earth Day event planning update.
And so with the Earth Day planning update, we will have Nasim Faruqi, who did a great job last year organizing the event, and he's laid out a flow chart and other items, and like we said, as soon as we go through this process, he's going to lay it out for you, and we'd love for questions at the end or ideas and things that you liked about the last one or what you would recommend changing. So thank you.
Good evening, President Hawkins, members of the board. I appreciate your time. My name is Nasim Faruqi, Public Affairs Manager for West Valley Water District. Last year was our first year that we held our first annual Earth Day celebration. Last year, in terms of planning, we planned it in a 3-week process. We do have a little more time right now, so we did create a flow chart working with the assistance of Rosa in the Engineering CIP department to put this together utilizing our Primavera software. So, in terms of cost, I know cost will come up. It's a question that did come up. Greg Young, and I did request from purchasing department the POs. So I have a list of all POs, but it's not just relating to Earth Day. So I'm going one by one through the Excel file, pulling those out. And that was where I was also was able to create a budget for this year, reducing costs and working with our CFO, Ricky Mambahal. For the timeline, if you could look at the start of it, there's various different processes that we have to go through. Logo, a concept design, sponsorships, drafting a media advisory, event flyer posters, but then we also have to go inform the public, educate the public. One of the things that Jeremiah had brought up today was utilizing a text messaging system that we currently have through Tyler, I believe, for free for the next 2 weeks. So that's an idea. In addition, we are looking at, we're going to be working with members throughout our community, different vendors, and having booths. And we're going to begin doing that, I believe, next week. And in that regard, we have Scott Olson, who had helped out last year, as well as our public affairs analyst from the past. However, we do have someone in the need capacity that will be assisting in that department as well. We're gonna be working with, inviting our dignitaries, our elected officials from the cities of Colton, cities of Rialto, cities of Fontana, as well as the county, San Bernardino Valley Water, and other agencies as well. So we look to have a big support and attendance. Last year, we did have 700 attendees attend and fill out a survey, and we look to incorporate that as well. We are still in the early stages where we're creating a logistics planning timeline, and that's where we're currently in the process. We just finalized this yesterday. And if you have any questions for me, one of the concerns that we do have in terms of cost that Ricky and I have been working on is parking. Parking is extremely difficult here. And part of the cost that we have is having buses. Having buses come from, last year we had parking at Eisenhower, and we had to have flag waivers. So there's things that we have to do for safety that we're trying to reduce costs, but there are certain things that we are unable to do. But however, we will take direction from the board on what exactly you guys would like to do, if there's any changes you would like to see, and we'll take that into account definitely. Do you have any questions for me? The plan is to host this April 18th. We are going to be working with staff to determine a shift schedule, because last year was our first year. We learned a lot where people were having difficulties taking breaks at a specific time. So we're going to make sure that we're better prepared this year.
Good. What is the cost, projected cost for this event?
The projected cost right now, based off of, I pulled invoices from last year, and just where we're at right now, I think we're looking at $48,000 before sponsorships.
Okay. Have we done and considered what type of benefit that we're trying to get from hosting Earth Day?
There is an education component that we are trying to, that all of this really is about education. Educating our community, educating our students. We're working with, I know that Cynthia Burtz had met with, our public affairs analyst had met with Rialto Unified School District, I believe a couple days ago, and we're also going to be reaching out to Fontana and the other school districts, Colton Unified, and
Basic focus is on education?
Correct, education and interaction, but education not necessarily just about conservation, but also education overall of the water process system. So for example, last year, we had our water treatment staff work the water treatment facilities and doing tours and educating folks on what exactly goes through the whole process of treating water. So it's not just conservation, but it's overall education to the water system as a whole.
You know, for this year's upcoming budget, I would like to see some real cost benefit analysis in terms of this program. So I'll be asking that question coming into the future.
And just so you're aware,
What you said tonight was nice, but be prepared to answer that.
I understand, and one of the things that I did with Ricky is I've been going through and trying to reduce costs as much as possible, and we're still working on trying to trim even more.
Component that you said regarding, that you are seeking sponsorships in order to reduce costs. So, that's an important part. I mean, not to say we need a cost benefit, but I think, that this program is very good in us in the traditionally underserved community. Not to get into all of that, but the water industry is one of the industries for generally everyone that is a mystery, but particularly in the type of community that we're in. When you start talking about water and environmental resources, there isn't as much information about it. And it's our school-age children, middle school children, high school children need to understand the importance and the critical investment that their parents or that they'll be making really in the water infrastructure. And so this is something that is a really good opportunity for us to engage in the community. I do like the fact, and I agree with Dr. Young, that we have to be fiscally responsible in what we do and try to mitigate costs as much as possible. But I think it's also critical that we educate our young people so they know about water and they know about this process. Unfortunately, what we're doing today, it will benefit us, but ultimately it will be their responsibility to carry it to the future. And in our community, we need to educate people about water.
I
I'd say
appreciate
that there will be an opportunity to discuss the budget for this at the mid-year budget workshop. That'll be coming up very soon.
Right.
And
Matter of fact.
General Manager,
I just was giving him some advance notice.
Yes.
and as the general manager did say, this right now is not budgeted. So we're coming with funding, request for funding, with a breakdown of actual costs to you in the mid-year with a detailed explanation of everything. So in the spirit of transparency.
And so can I add to that, that I think that request in the mid-year needs to also include what the costs were from last year as well.
I will have that completed.
But also one of the things which overall, I was very pleased with the event last year. In particular, I really enjoyed the aspect of people being able to interact with the different departments, because I think so many people don't understand all the different functions that occur here in order to provide them with safe drinking water. But I think that your analysis needs to also include staffing, because obviously some staffing are on salary, so they're sorry. But for those who aren't, who are hourly, that's something which needs to be taken into consideration too. But also, Nasim, if it's possible, I think it's something we need to look at is what is a per person cost for similar type events that other districts do. You quoted 48,000. I did some quick math thanks to my iPhone calculator, and even if we get 1,500 people here, that's still $32 a person. Now, is $32 a person an appropriate dollar amount for an event like this? I don't know, but certainly I would hope that as the department head that you could maybe reach out to some of your colleagues in the field as far as other events that maybe other districts have done. What is a normal cost? Is it in that range, or again, because I think that as far as doing this in the future, and I would like to see this done in the future, we need to be mindful of what a average cost should be around. I have no problem going above an average cost if there's good reasons to do so. And like you said, you brought up the whole issue of the parking. I think that that's a very reasonable reason why we may have to be okay with spending a little bit more per person than maybe other projects. But I think that we have to have a comparison there too.
We'll make contact with other districts and determine how much they cost.
Okay, thank you. And again, your staff last year did a phenomenal job. And I look forward to it. Unfortunately, it's on a day when I'm out of town, so I probably won't be able to make it this year because I have a family commitment that day. But I am hoping it will once again have a very successful event. So thank you for this update.
Well, and I appreciate that, but just so everyone is aware, this was a district-wide event. This was not my staff. Everyone came together and the morale.
For sure, yeah. No, everybody did a phenomenal job, but I know it put a lot of stress on your particular department.
Thank you.
Pulling all this off, so thank you. Yes, and I love the Primavera. Thank you. As the project manager and me.
Thank you for your work, Mr. Farouk, and definitely I agree with my board members' comments. Thank you for your planning and thank you for moving forward. At some point, you are going to make an announcement about the upcoming mid-year budget meeting. Okay, all right. So I guess when you get the reports.
On item number 3, I would like to hold this off until it goes back to the External Affairs Committee.
Okay.
The website?
The website. Now, you mean in regard to them giving an update on where they are?
Supposed to be doing anything.
They're not doing it. It's a presentation. It's not they haven't,
Yeah, I can follow up to that. So yeah, like Dr. Young had mentioned, this is going to go to the External Affairs Committee. Just wanted to update the board on where we were at. We interviewed 3 applicants Throughout the process, we're recommending one to come to the External Affairs Committee, give a presentation, and then from there, the External Affairs Committee would make their decision on what the next website would look like. But beyond that, this was supposed to be an update on our current website and some of the changes we had made.
Oh,
On the current website.
on the current
Yeah.
website. We're not, this is in presentations. We're not voting. Okay.
So just more of an informational item to make the board aware. Obviously, some social media had went out. We added a corrections page just for some of the things that have been negatively said about the district. And so if anybody would like to take the time, you can see things that maybe the media got wrong. And when you go to our website under one of the sections, you will see a corrections page. And we want to make everybody aware that as West Valley, we don't want to just respond to things and then continue to have to go back in the flow of things. We want to continuously be on top of setting the record straight for our district.
Okay, is that the entirety of the presentation, or you wanted to give more?
That's basically it. That
Okay.
we're trying to move in a new
And that's
direction.
important, the corrections page, and what that is that I think there used to be, there's a few sides to every story. There's the opinions people have, there's the truth, there's the facts, and there are some things that aren't accurate. And here at West Valley, I think we have made a number of mistakes have been made. A number of policies, as you can see by my statements tonight, need to be corrected, long-standing policies. However, what's important as we go through the process and we are reforming and changing our organization, it's important that we deal with the facts. Whether, I think people could have their own individual motivations, whether someone in the news may, in an attempt to get clicks on their stories, write something that may not be as accurate as it should be. West Valley Water District now wants to put out the facts. We have to deal with and engage from truth. That's an important thing that you have to stand on. And so in there, we have had an analysis of statements. There have been things that have been cut off from statements. There have been omissions made regarding what the goings on here at West Valley. Reasons we don't know, but we want you to know what the facts are, at least from our vantage point. So informed individuals can make decisions as far as what they believe is the truth. So thank you all in Public Affairs for putting that together. It's important because some news may be fake news, not real news, and it's important that we get that out there. Next up, the consent the consent calendar, no consent calendar, okay. All right, next up in business matters, moving on to consideration item number 1, agreement to complete accounting policies and procedures weaknesses identified in FY 18-19 audit. Mr. CFO.
Good evening, board members, public, staff. As directed by the board, I went ahead and researched some CPA firms to complete our accounting policies and procedures. As we know, there were some significant findings of weaknesses identified by the Poon Group during their annual audit. So to give you an update as to where we're at, on the week of February 24th, I requested from 4 different CPA firms written proposals to complete these policies and procedures, or accounting policies and procedures. I received 2 formally written agreements back, and one of the respondents did not respond, and the other 2 could not get it back to me in time. So I took of the 2, I am recommending Ms. Ravan CPA Consulting, Inc., My rationale for recommending this CPA firm is, one, I really appreciated the timely response and the professionalism in the response. The quality of the response, her resume, she was actually a senior auditor and then became an accounting manager, so she has the technical understanding of what's needed. And when I had a conversation with her, it was just like, yes, second nature to her. So the third reason is I have no affiliation with the organization. The organization have no affiliation with the district. They did do some work for the city of Rialto, but that's as close as they were to the West Valley Water District. So with that, I will open it up for questions. There is a scope of work that's in the agreement, which specifically identifies what we need. I've also put a time frame on completion, which is also in the scope of work, and it should be, the complete draft should be available by June, and we can bring it back to the board for adoption. So with all of those restrictions and deadlines in place, I felt very comfortable with this CPA firm.
Ricky, I appreciate you having a more restricted scope of work. I know I brought up that issue before, but, and I appreciate you explaining how you reached your conclusion, because that was kind of missing in the staff report.
Yeah.
And I would certainly, I mean, this is not so much to you, but to all staff, that if you're recommending us going with a particular firm, it really needs to be clearly spelled out what the process was of how you arrived at that decision. And you know, basically you went from, we had 2 bids and this is who I'm recommending, so it was kind of very vague. It didn't really say what the process was. So I appreciate you clarifying that here in public, but I think it'll be important moving forward that that kind of thing is spelled out in the staff report though too, so it's part of the permanent record.
And your recommendation is really taken into consideration, and that was.
Yeah, I'd want to speak to that, however, because what is the amount for this contract?
It's $23,000.
It's $23,000. So technically, the reason why this is coming forward is because of the directive that I gave to staff regarding how we would handle contracts that would generally just fall under the general manager. And what he's doing is complying with the directives that us as the board gave, that even for contracts that would fall under that, they would have a business stated purpose for that. And typically a contract of that scope and size would not come to the board, but because there was a directive given to the general manager, that's why he's coming forward with such level of detail to the board, so we can ensure that the process and articulating it as such. So I do want to commend Mr. Mandeville for what he has done in explaining something that, in adhering to the directive that he was given. Thank you.
Correct, and I take no exception with that, Mr. President. I just think that we need to be fully transparent that if we're going to have a staff item for it, that it does need to be spelled out in that staff item, so that, again, if people review the documents later, that is clearly laid out. But I did want to ask you one question though. The second firm, where was the second firm from?
Eddie Bailey.
Okay, where are they located?
They are in Southern, they've got offices throughout the U.S. And there's an office in Southern California, I believe in Rancho. They just acquired another CPA firm.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't move them up in the recommendation is because I've used the CPA firm that they've recommended in prior roles. So they're both qualified.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly I have no issue with the firm you're presenting, other than I know that in the past, the board has been trying to stay with local firms as much as possible, and I did notice that this firm's all the way down in Los Angeles. Now, if that's the best and that's what you feel like you need, I have no issue giving you the help you need, but I just, without seeing what the second firm was, I was curious as to who they were and where they were from.
And I also reached out to Rams, who was the auditor here before, and I've worked with that organization at
Well, if they
prior.
didn't submit, they
And
didn't
they didn't,
submit,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah, but again, you said you got 2 bids back, I just was curious what the second bid was.
Yes, it was from Eddie Bailey.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. And as much as this is something, I'm not sure if we're exactly supposed to be voting on this, as opposed to you were giving us an
I
FYI.
asked him to bring it to.
What we did ask them to bring it back,
And he's
but,
given us a recommendation, I think we can vote on that.
okay, I'm just saying, I mean, well, it is something that we will vote on. Thank you for doing your due diligence. But I did want to note, this is technically something that falls under the general manager's authority. And because of the directives that he was given, he is coming to the board to make sure that we're being transparent with the process. So with that being said, is there a motion
Yeah,
on the floor?
I'll make the motion that we adopt item number 1.
I'll second it.
I'll second the motion.
No.
I'll second.
All right, you never know.
The young and young. All right. Call for the vote.
Okay. Director Dr. Michael
Yes.
Taylor. Director Greg Young.
Yes,
Director Clifford Young.
Yes.
Director, President Channing.
Yes. There you go. Thank you. All right. Next is Merchant Services Agreement, Open Edge.
Yes, I apologize, the printout in your package is like not good, so I made some
Yeah.
copies
Okay.
for you guys.
Okay. We had some technical difficulties with the uploading of our packet this week. Thank you.
So OpenEdge is a merchant service provider, and as we've been updating the board on our transition of the utility billing system, merchant services is one of the last pieces that we need to update. Merchant services, they're responsible for processing on the back end all of the credit card, telephone, online payments. They're the ones that sets the network up for us to accept payments that goes to the bank. There's a charge for those transactions. It's a per transaction charge. And OpenEdge is a recommended vendor from Tyler, who is our provider for the utility billing module. I also looked at Evalon, I think it's Evalon is the correct name, and when I compared the two, Evalon from a customer service standpoint, I wasn't really pleased with them. And it wasn't just me, it was a host of us that was looking at the demo. Very unprofessional. They didn't really understand our business needs and what they were doing. They were just trying to sell a product. So I did not want to choose them. I selected OpenEdge. They're the largest provider. They're the more secured provider and extremely dependable. In addition to that, they're offering us a rate that saves the district compared to what we're using and paying currently, to the tune of about $15,000 annually. And we need to get that in place for March 16th, because that's our go live date. If we can't get this in place, then we would not be able to receive any of those types of payment transactions. If we choose to research another organization, we may have interface problems with Tyler and our utility billing software. In addition to that, it will take a lot longer to get it in place. So before you is the proposal from Open Edge, which compares what we're currently paying to what their charges are. And the last page, what I did, because it's so tiny, I did a little Excel table that actually shows you the annual charge, the monthly charge for all three services, the total annual charges, and then the current charges and approximate savings.
Cricky, I just want to clarify a couple details. The fiscal impact section probably could have been worded a little better, but I just want to clarify. So, correct me if I'm mixing this up. I'm trying to understand what's written here. So, are you saying that what we're currently paying right now is $149,000? Is that what our current provider is charging?
Yes, so the annual cost is approximately 134
Well, that's
for Open Edge.
Yeah, Open Edge, but
Yes.
the current
And currently
is the 149.
yes,
Okay, what is the budgeted amount in our budget?
we budget what we're currently spending.
Okay, so the budget amount is 149?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, it could be a little clearer. I mean, if you look at some of our past items, I think you'll see what I'm talking about, but I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify those numbers because it was a little wonky.
All right.
All right, I don't have any other questions.
Mr. President, I move the item.
I'll second it.
Okay, call for the vote.
Director Dr. Michael Taylor,
Yes.
Director Greg Young,
Yes.
Director Dr. Clifford Young,
Yes.
and President Channing Hawkins.
Yes, he has to take a quick break, but we still have a quorum, so we're gonna keep going. As you all can see, tonight has been about our financial controls, everything from payments to agreements to complete our accounting policies. Next up, we're also addressing the West Valley Water District FY 18-19 CAFR report. Mr. Manval.
Okay, so the CAFR is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the district as of June 30th, 2019. It's required by government code to have this report, this audit completed and filed with the state controller's office, the Government Finance Officers Association office, our bond trustees, and the County of San Bernardino and some other entities. It's a historical report that shows or displays our activities during the reporting year compared to our activities in prior year. It's not just a cash report. Let me make that very, very clear. It includes all of the district's assets. So from equipment, maintenance, building, cash, it's a comprehensive report. The important thing to note in this, it shows our net position. When you put all of our assets together, if we are moving forward or we are declining. The report indicates that we have increased our net position and it's moving in the right direction. It complies with all generally accepted accounting principles and all of the GASB pronouncements. So this is why we received a clean opinion. Don't confuse it with the internal control findings that the Poon Group issued, because that is a separate set of criteria that the auditors look at. They're looking at our internal processes. GAAP, GASB, and our CAFR complies with that, but that's not the purpose of the audit. So I'm asking the board to receive and file this report so we can make it public and we can disperse it to the required agency on a timely basis. So,
Second.
I'll second. You got this one, Greg.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, so moved and seconded. Peggy?
Yes. Director Dr. Michael Taylor,
Yes.
Director Greg Young,
Yes.
Director Dr. Clifford Young,
Yes.
and President Channing Hawkins.
Yes, thank you. All right. Next up is reports limited to 5 minutes maximum. I was going to give my report first from Washington, D.C. We went to Aqua last week and wanted to give the report back, and so here we go with the slideshow. Yes, sir. All right. Dr. Young is excusing himself, but we still have a quorum, so the meeting, but all of the voting part of the meeting is done, right? Okay, so I just wanted to give a report back of what we did in Washington, D.C. The West Valley Water District President's Report, visits with California congressional delegations and delegation members and White House staff. First, we met with Congresswoman Norma Torres's office. We discussed the EPA programs such as Environmental Workforce Development and Job Training Grant Program to incentivize women and minority students in disadvantaged communities. As you know, our community is a particularly disadvantaged community, and there is grant funding for us to be able to address us as we incentivize and particularly women and minorities. As anyone who is familiar with the water industry, it is one of the least diverse industries in our state, in the public sector. And so we wanted to be able to take advantage of some of the grants and opportunities over the coming next year to allow us so we can be able to build pipelines and bridges so people would be able to get an opportunity here at West Valley. We also discussed the Oliver P. Romer Water Treatment Project plant expansion and groundwater recharge projects and the benefits of injection wells. We also covered the need for wellhead treatment to address nitrate, perchlorate, and arsenic contamination. Discussed interest in developing an apprenticeship job training program aimed at exposing women and minorities and young adults to employment opportunities in the water sector. Also talked about the new West Valley Water District leadership and reform initiatives involving transparency and accountability. I also want to note that the chief, Dr. Michael Taylor, was there, as well as Vice President Kyle Crowther joined me. We were all there pitch hitting and taking on some of these meetings. We also met with our local congressman, the other half of Rialto, Congressman Pete Aguilar. We discussed a number of the same issues with Congressman Aguilar. It was a very good trip. We met with both the Congresswoman herself and with the Congressman in their offices there in DC. Next, we met with Congresswoman one of the longest serving Congresswomen in the state of California. She serves in the east part of LA, kind of inland, and she is on, one of the key things, she is on the environmental workforce. She is on the water committee, infrastructure committee in the Congress, and is the chair of the committee. We talked to her again about job training and grants. One of the things particularly we talked to our office about is express support for the Bureau of Reclamation and Water Smart programs. Next, Senator Dianne Feinstein's office. Again, we talked about workforce development here. We also talked about the expansion of Romer plant and treatment. When we discussed the district interest in our apprenticeship program, creating an apprenticeship program. Next, again, we talked to Senator Kamala Harris's office about the same matters, what we're doing with workforce development, and again, with the Romer project and what we can do to get some additional funding. Next, we also had a meeting with the White House with Jerron K. Smith. He's a special assistant to the president, formerly over urban policy. He is someone who has been involved with the president, the administration's plan to reach out to underserved communities. He again discussed EPA programs such as environmental workforce development and job training. Part of his portfolio work in the White House is that he's the person behind the First Step Act, which is the criminal justice reform initiative that the president has, as well as the opportunity zones for the president. And he's involved with what they're doing in dealing with disadvantaged youth, which again fits into what we want to do with our apprenticeship programs in our community. And it is good that I don't want to go into everything because we're nonpartisan, but it was good to meet somebody who looked like somebody in our community who was talking about the right issues from the current administration.
And he's a good Republican.
We can't say anything partisan, but yes. And so it was good, and I hope that we're able to get some additional funding for our district because people need it. With that being said, we also met with Congressman Mark Takano. We talked about some of the same issues, but we asked Congressman Takano support in our effort to clean the chloride groundwater contamination in Rialto Colton Basin. Next, we also met with Dr. Akia Zakia from the CBC Foundation. We discussed particularly apprenticeships in water. She has done some of the most groundbreaking work in the water industry, talking about the lack of participation, particularly of women, particularly of people of color and communities of formerly incarcerated. So she published a report that is on the CBC's website, but she particularly talked about the challenges in increasing the level of participation for these groups and what we can do in modeling our program. We're looking, I think we've talked about it from the days before, that we're looking at our 1,000-hour program as a way to address some of the staffing shortages, but also we want to do it in a way where we're able to address this issue of critical need. So our district is a leader as far as promoting some of the groups that are historically kept out of water. We also discussed partnerships with partnering with local community colleges and how best to do that, vocational schools, HBCUs, as well as Hispanic serving institutions. We also discussed EPA workforce training program, the labor apprenticeships, USA program. And we also talked about the role of water utilities as an anchor in historically disadvantaged communities. She did some very groundbreaking work in Africa, as well as around what happened in Flint, Michigan, and has given us some insights on how to talk about water and infrastructure in a community like ours. Next steps, one of the things that was found glaring for some of the grants and some of the funding that we want, we have to have some matching funds. We currently don't have anyone advocating for us here at the state capitol. There's a number of, there's substantial dollars in grants and other fundings that we're leaving on the table, and that if we can co-match it with our federal efforts would help expand our dollar. And so that's something that we're gonna need to look at, and in the short term, we're gonna have to fix that problem that we don't have an advocate in Sacramento. But we need to better coordinate, and this is gonna be our federal and state legislative agendas. We also need to reinstate our 1,000-hour program to provide water, jobs, and training opportunities for local residents. Finally, we need to follow up on a federal and state funding opportunities for current projects such as the expansion for Romer. The trip was a good trip. It was an educational trip, and we brought this back so folks know what we did when we were in DC. I did go to the hot dog place too, and I had a chili dog. I always get one at Ben's Chili Bowl. If you haven't been, you should go. Outside of that, that's the rest of the presentation. Mike, Dr. Taylor, do you want to add anything?
I think you pretty much said everything. Now, it was a great trip, very informative, and we met a lot of influential people that are trying to help the district. And our new president did a great job of advocating for the district. I was impressed. Thank you.
Any other board member reports?
Just real quick, I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and everybody's watching from home, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Okay, legal counsel, anything to report out? There's this time.
Nothing to report on, Mr. President, but I do think it's important to note that we did not discuss the Key Tam lawsuit in closed session today.
Okay, all right, general manager, I know you wanted to report out.
Yes, I'd like to give an update on the board's request that we look at another or other computerized maintenance management systems. So staff has been working on an RFP, and we're expecting to release that RFP this coming Monday.
This is an important issue to note. One of the things that when I came in and had the opportunity to sit down with staff, we are looking at a different computerized maintenance system based on our professional staff's recommendation of what would be more cost efficient, what would be something that would be a good fit with our existing infrastructure and staff resources. And so based on that, the board has decided that we want to open it back up to see if there's something that's a better fit. Also, there's an update about the RFP for the assistant GM.
Correct. In that case, we put out an RFQ.
RFQ.
Qualifications. And we had 3 firms respond, and those 3 firms will be presented to the HR committee this coming week. And once the HR committee looks at the firms, they'll make a recommendation to the full board.
Okay, thank you. And so we look forward to that. Anything else to report, Mr. General Manager?
Yes, one last thing. Jeremiah has a report.
Okay.
So I just wanted to comment on having the next budget hearing at Eisenhower High School, and basically the means of how we're going to communicate for the first time using text messaging and trying out our new Tyler Notify system. And hopefully going forward, we'll be able to communicate better with ratepayers and connect with them on a one-on-one level.
One of the things, and I thank you for noting that, is that one of the things that the board really stressed and wanted to emphasize, I think last year they had community-based meetings, but particularly what we wanted to do, because there's a lot of information, some accurate, some not so accurate regarding the budget. We are not gonna have our board meeting on the mid-year budget here in this facility. The board is committed to getting outside the walls of this organization and this agency here at this address, and wants to go in the community to have these kind of discussions so the public has an easier opportunity to access and be able to be a part and know about what those discussions are and ask any questions. So as part of that, we are moving what would be our mid-year budget hearing from here to Eisenhower High School. We want to make sure it's one of the highest populated areas in our district, to make sure that people have access to what we're doing here at West Valley Water District. We will still be on Facebook. We will still allow for all that, but it's important that we get out of our walls here. Also, one of the things that we're doing in order to be more transparent and engaged, we are testing out pilot, so people don't get mad. We are going to use our Tyler Notify system to text message. How many people are we looking at text messaging?
That was something we were going to decide kind of at a later date. It was either we were going to do it by the meter routes surrounding the area, or we were going to do the district at large, but that would be at the will of the board.
Okay, all right. Well, I think it's March 14th, so we can figure it out. So I guess you guys will figure that out, and we'll just go with it. We'll show up at our right time at the right place. But it's important to note, we won't have the meeting here. We will have it in the district at Eisenhower High School. We are excited about it. If you're a ratepayer and you live in the area and you want to participate, please do. We'll still have Facebook Live. We will be sending out notifications about that change. Any other, anything else to report?
From the staff, that's it.
Okay, from staff, that's it. Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Can I add just one thing?
Yes.
I just got word that, the Bloomington High School girls, soccer team just won their semifinal CIF champion, or round. So just want to give a shout out to the girls there in Bloomington.
Bloomington High School, let's go. I don't know, what's the mascot there?
Bruins.
The Bruins, the Bloomington Bruins, all right. I prefer the Trojans, but I'm all right. The Bloomington Bruins, I'm a fan. Send me a t-shirt, just win. With that being said, we have our upcoming meetings listed here. Unless there's anything else, is there a motion for adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All right. That being said, motion to adjourn. I consent. Do we have to take the vote, Ms. Bailey? Okay, okay.
So with this,